Warning: the following episode contains discussions of child murder and child abuse. Listener discretion is advised.
My friends are my power.
What is going on, my guys, gals, non-binary pals, nerds everywhere? Welcome back to Nerd Explosion, the weekly podcast are based on a monthly theme. We nerd out about whatever we want. I'm Cameron.
I'm Kate.
And this month, we are diving into technically something new that we've done here on the podcast. I mean, I've done a couple episodes kind of like this, but not necessarily a whole month on it. This month, we are doing True Crime Month, as per Kate's request.
Yay!
Exactly why I included that new little, spooky, ominous intro.
It was very spoopy. I like it.
Yeah, I worked really hard on it. I appreciate that. It was a whole 5 minutes of work.
So, because we're doing a true crime month, that means that I get to take control because you know how into the true crime sphere are you?
I know, of some cases, there's some cases I know, but other than that, I'm not as into it as, you are, obviously.
So when you say some cases, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase true crime?
I don't know if it technically qualifies as true crime, but, that whole episode I did on Chris Benoit, when I dived into that.
Yeah, it was a murder-suicide.
There's obviously the, bigger cases, the well-known cases that people know, the Jeffrey Dahmers, the Ted Bundys and stuff. That's about as far as, my biggest true crime knowledge is.
Okay, so I'm super excited about this month because we're going into every episode completely blind.
And by that meaning, I'm going in blind. You know what you're going to talk about, and I know jack shit.
I condensed these notes down as much as I could, but this is going to be a long one because this is one of the cases that I fucking spiral about. There's an answer. There's clearly an answer, something happened.
Yeah. But
it's unsolved.
Well, as are most, but I'm guessing by your expression and your the light in your eye, it's exciting to say the least.
So should we crack into it?
Yeah, but first of all, before we crack into it, new episodes of this podcast come out every Saturday, so do all the things that do all the stuff on all the platforms. But with that being said, Caitlin, go ahead and crack into it.
Okay, does the name JonBenét Ramsey mean anything to you?
I don't necessarily remember what happened there, but I do remember the name JonBenét Ramsey. Wasn't that a little girl, or was that? Am I thinking completely wrong?
No, she was a little girl.
Oh yeah, she was a little girl. That's about all I know. And wasn't it a murder case or something like that?
Oh, I'm so excited to dive into this. Okay, I spend this. JonBenét is my Roman Empire. I think about JonBenét Ramsey at least once a day.
Yeah.
Easily. Okay, so I'm just going to cite my sources at the top. I know this case by heart. Okay, I'm not kidding. I spend a lot of time thinking about JonBenét. I did get
more than one sane person probably should.
I will not be looking into what that says about me as a person. Thank you. But I did get most of my information from Wikipedia, and there's a couple documentaries that I have watched that I also cited in my notes. So I'm just going to read you my notes because I condensed it as much as I could, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
So we're going to start from the beginning. JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6th, 1990. So she was a Leo, shout out. In Atlanta, Georgia, the younger of two children, Patricia Patsy Ramsey, 1956 to 2006, and JonBenét Ramsey, born 1943. She had an older brother named Burke, born 1987. JonBenét's first name combines her father's first and middle names, and her mother's first name was used as her middle name. She was enrolled in kindergarten at High Peaks Elementary School in Boulder, Colorado. So going forward, they mention JonBenét and JonBenét So just to keep things easy, when I'm talking about the dad, I'm just going to call him John. Because JonBenét is one word. So starting with John Ramsey was a businessman who was the president of Access Graphics, a computer software company that later became the subsidiary of Lockheed Martin. His first marriage ended in divorce in 1978. In 1991, John had moved with Patsy, his second wife, and family to Boulder, where Access Graphics headquarters was located. Patsy Ramsey entered JonBenét in various child beauty pageants in Boulder, where she won the titles, respectively, of America's Royal Miss, Little Miss Charlevoix, Little Miss Colorado, Colorado State All-Star Kids Cover Girl, and National Tiny Miss Beauty.
You know, because we had a time in our history where we glorified little kids and put them on a pedestal and be like, hey, look how special my little girl is.
Literally. Just from the top, I'm anti-beauty pageant. I think they're disgusting.
Oh, yeah, they're stupid. Like, what is the point?
So, now
like, not just exploding, sorry to interrupt you, but like, not just the exploding children thing, but like, literally, what's the point of them?
To exploit children for money.
Yeah, because I literally see no other reason that, so they're stupid. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Okay, so here's where we get into the meat and potatoes, if you will. After a Christmas party on the 25th of December, Patsy put the kids to bed and headed to bed herself. The morning of December 26th, 1996, started off as any other day until Patsy realized that her daughter was missing. After she found a 2.5-page handwritten ransom note on the kitchen staircase at the Ramsey family's Boulder residence.
2.5-page ransom
2.5
note?
pages.
So there's no way that would have been done by a child, because there's no way. Well, first of all, there's no way a child would write 2.5 pages worth of like.
Oh, I'll get to the ransom note because I could spiral on that alone.
Wait, I'm thinking like runaway note. I'm like, no way. A ransom note is somebody be like, hey, I'll give you this person if you give me this.
Yeah.
So
the note demanded $118,000. John pointed out to police on the first police on the scene that the amount was nearly identical to his Christmas bonus the prior year, which suggested that someone who would have had access to that information would have been involved in the crime. Investigators looked at several theories behind the dollar amount demanded, considering employees of Access Graphics who may have known of the amount of John's prior bonus. They also considered the possibility that the ransom demand was a reference to Psalm 118 and spoke to religious sources to determine possible relevance. The ransom note appears to echo film dialogue. The films Ruthless People, Ransom, Escape from New York, Speed, and Dirty Harry all have parts or quotes from these movies were in the ransom note. The ransom note was unusually long. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, told the police that it was very unusual for such a note to be written at the crime scene. Police believed that the note was staged because it did not have any fingerprints except for Patsy's and the authorities who had handled it, and because it included an unusual use of exclamation marks and initialisms. The note and practice draft were written with a pen and notepad from inside the Ramsey home. According to a Colorado Bureau of Investigation report, quote, these are indicators that the author of the ransom note is Patricia Ramsey. However, the evidence fell short of a definitive conclusion. Michael Baden, a board-certified forensic pathologist who had consulted with both sides of the case, said he had never seen a note like it in his 60-year experience and that he did not think it was written by an outside stranger. A federal court ruled it highly unlikely that Patsy wrote the note, citing 6 certified handwriting experts. The court bemoaned the existence of the self-proclaimed experts without credentials trying to enter the case by accusing Patsy without scientific basis.
So pretty much a lot of people were like, yeah, Patsy wrote this, but then there were people like, I don't think she did.
Right.
Even though
so
all these
also,
experts clearly were like, hey, she wrote this.
Also, so at this point, JonBenét is still missing, right?
Yeah.
The police did not secure the crime scene. They did not dust for fingerprints. They did not remove the Ramseys from the premises to search. They didn't even do a full sweep. Like, at this point, this crime scene is already so botched.
Gotta love our American law enforcement system.
Right? So, here's the ransom note in its entirety.
God, you got the whole note in there?
I sure did. Copied and pasted that
All
bitch.
right. Let's dive in.
Because it's just, it's wild. Okay, so this is the ransom note.
Okay.
Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We do, crossed out do, we respect your businesses, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter.
God, if you want her to see 1997, that's such a weird line. Right?
You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 will be in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate sized attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier delivery crossed out pickup of your daughter. By the way, I'm not tripping over my words. This is exactly how this is written.
So they literally write one thing, cross it out.
So they wrote delivery, crossed it out, and then wrote pickup of your daughter.
Oh yeah, because, pickup sounds so much better.
Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for a proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anybody about your situation, such as police, capitalized, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory, SBTC.
So that, to me, clearly shows that whoever wrote that knows who he is.
Also, I want to point out that the instructions for getting the cash, make sure you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank.
Attaché. So like that to me means like briefcase or something like that.
So an attaché is like it's like a duffel bag. It's like a fancy duffel bag. But like, why is that important? Like, it's just the language of the and then to start it with, we are a small foreign faction. Like,
well, back to the whole like attaché thing. Like, just to bring that to the bank, just to put it in a brown paper bag. Like, why not just keep it in the duffel bag? And also, what really confuses me is how specific they are about, like, not deceiving us. Like, what was the one part of that? If you talk to a stray dog, she dies. If you talk to a stray dog, she dies. So that whole thing, if you do this, she dies. If you do this, she dies. If you do this, she dies. That's where they're thinking, like, oh, you just ripped this straight out of these specific movies. Right, because, I mean, not that I would ever do this, but if I was writing a ransom note, I would not, just go through the whole list of like, oh, if you try to outsmart me, did this and this and this and this and this. Just do one blanket statement.
Right. So at this point, the police have pretty much blundered the entire thing. And I got so caught up on
They just got there and they're like, I don't know.
Literally, like they didn't know what they was doing. So I got so caught up on the ransom note that I forgot to explain how JonBenét was eventually found.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, she's dead. She's been dead this whole time. She's been in the wine cellar. So.
Well, yeah, because that's their whole tactic. You know, they get the money, but they don't actually, without the promise of, you know, returning the girl. They're like, hey, we already killed her, but we're going to take the money and run.
She never left the house.
Oh.
Yeah, no, she was killed sometime in the night in her own home. She was found in the wine cellar. And the way she was found was John and an officer did another, quote, search of the house. And John, quote, stumbled upon her body in the wine cellar.
I like how you put air quotes on it. Like John was like, oh, no,
well,
my daughter.
I have my thoughts, and I'll get to that at the end. But so
how could this have happened?
So basically, JonBenét, the father, scooped up his daughter, ran her back upstairs, and was just like screaming. So first of all, he moved the body.
Which, I mean, in that sense, like, I can get why he did it, but still.
If you watch any kind of crime show, do not touch the body.
Do not ever move the body.
Don't move it. Don't touch it. Don't even breathe on it. Okay? Like, no.
Because that is crucial evidence that you could be tampering with.
Yes. So at this point, JonBenét is unfortunately no longer with us, and the whole case just gets worse from here. The only people known to be in the house on the night of JonBenét's death were her immediate family, Patsy, John Ramsey, and their son Burke. The ransom note contained specific instructions against contacting the police and friends, but Patsy telephoned the police at 5:52 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. She also called any family and friends. 2 police officers responded to the 911 call and arrived at the Ramsey house within 3 minutes. They conducted a cursory search of the house but did not find any sign of forced entry. Officer Rick French went to the basement and came to a door that was secured by a wooden latch. He paused for a moment in front of the door but then walked away without opening it. French later explained that he was looking for an exit route used by the kidnapper, which the closed inside peg ruled out. So that little place that I just explained right there is where JonBenét was eventually found. She was behind that door.
In that one with the one latch.
Yeah. So whoever killed her latched the door behind them. With JonBenét still missing, John made arrangements to pay the ransom. A forensics team was dispatched to the house. The team initially believed that the child had been kidnapped, and JonBenét's bedroom was the only room in the house that was cordoned off to prevent contamination of evidence. At this point, we are well beyond that. Like this whole crime scene has been contaminated.
Right.
No precautions were taken to prevent the contamination of evidence for the rest of the house. Meanwhile, friends, victim advocates, and the Ramsey family's minister arrived at the home to show support. Visitors picked up and cleaned surfaces in the kitchen, possibly destroying evidence. Boulder detective Linda Arndt arrived about 8 a.m. in anticipation of receiving further instructions by the kidnappers. But there was never any attempt by anyone to claim the money. At 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Detective Arndt asked John Ramsey and Fleet White, a family friend, to search the house to see if, quote, anything seemed amiss. Then this is where I'm getting into how they found her.
Yeah.
They started the search in the basement. John opened the latch door with Officer French in which Officer French had overlooked and found his daughter's body in one of the rooms. JonBenét's mouth. Okay, trigger warning. Her death is a little rough. And I mean, it's we should put a trigger warning probably at the top of the episode.
Yeah, I'll probably edit one in like before the episode starts.
Because this is, I mean, any death of a child is horrific, but this was rough. JonBenét's mouth was covered with duct tape. A nylon cord was found around her wrists and neck, and her torso was covered by a white blanket. John picked up the child's body and took it upstairs. When JonBenét was moved, the crime scene was further contaminated and critical forensic evidence was disturbed for the returning forensics team. Each one of the Ramseys provided handwriting, blood, and hair samples to the police. John and Patsy participated in a preliminary interview for more than 2 hours, and Burke was also interviewed within the first couple of weeks following JonBenét's death. So this is where it gets a little hard to hear, because I'm going into the autopsy now.
So, trigger warning.
Yeah. The autopsy revealed that JonBenét had been killed by strangulation and a skull fracture. The official cause of death was, quote, asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. There was no evidence of conventional rape, although sexual assault could not be ruled out. Keep in mind she's 6. Although no semen was found, there was evidence that there had been vaginal injury. Evidence also suggested that a paintbrush used in the garrote was also used for sexual assault. At the time of the autopsy, the pathologist recorded that it appeared her vaginal area had been wiped with a cloth. Her death was ruled a homicide. A garrote that was made from the length of nylon cord and a broken handle of the paintbrush was tied around JonBenét's neck and had apparently been used to strangle her. Part of the bristle end of the paintbrush was found in a tub containing Patsy's art supplies, but the bottom third of it was never found despite extensive searching of the house by police in subsequent days. The autopsy revealed a, quote, vegetable or fruit material that may represent pineapple, which JonBenét had eaten a few hours before her death. Photographs of the home taken on the day when JonBenét's body was found show a bowl of pineapple on the kitchen table with a spoon in it. However, neither John nor Patsy said they remembered putting the bowl on the table or feeding the pineapple to JonBenét. Police reported that they found JonBenét's 9-year-old brother, Burke Ramsey's fingerprints on the bowl. The Ramseys have always said that Burke slept through the entire night until he was awakened several hours after the police had arrived. I could spiral on that alone too, but I will get to that at the end. I have my thoughts. In December of 2003, forensic investigators extracted enough material from a mixed blood sample found on JonBenét's underwear to establish a DNA profile. That DNA profile belonged to an unknown male person and excluded the DNA of each of the Ramseys. The DNA was submitted by the FBI's Combined Data Index System, or CODIS, a database containing more than 1.6 million DNA profiles, but the sample did not match any profile in the database. In October of 2016, a report said that a new forensic analysis with more sensitive techniques revealed the original DNA contained genetic markers from 2 individuals other than JonBenét. Experts, media commenters, and the Ramseys have identified potential suspects in the case. Boulder police initially focused almost exclusively on John and Patsy, but by October 1997 had over 1,600 people in their index of persons of interest for the case. Errors that were made in the initial investigation complicated the resolution of the investigation and applicable theory. These errors included loss and contamination of evidence, lack of experienced and technical staff on the investigation, evidence shared with the Ramseys, and delayed informal interviews with the parents. So here's a couple of theories that people have. Theory number 1, the family did it. So here's theory number 1. There are 2 primary theories about the death of JonBenét. One is that the family member theory. The Boulder police initially concentrated almost exclusively upon the parents, John and Patsy Ramsey. According to Gregory McCrae, a retired profile for the FBI, quote, statistically, it is a 12-to-1 probability that it's a family member or a caregiver who is involved in the homicide of a child. The police saw no evidence of a forced entry, but they did see evidence of staging a scene, such as the ransom note. They did not find the Ramseys cooperative in helping them solve the death of their daughter. The Ramseys had said that their reluctance was due to their fear that there would not be a full investigation for intruders, and that they would be hastily selected as key suspects in the case, according to the Daily Camera. One theory is that Patsy struck Pansy. One theory is that Patsy struck JonBenét in a fit of rage after a bedwetting episode and strangled her to cover up what had happened, after mistakenly thinking she was already dead. However, Patsy did not have a known history of uncontrolled anger. JonBenét's brother Burke Ramsey later said, we didn't get spanked, nothing of the sort, nothing close, nothing near laying a finger on us, let alone killing your child. Theoretically, the strangulation could have been a, quote, red herring aspect to conceal the other elements of the assault and killing. Burke, who was 9 years old at the time of JonBenét's death, was interviewed by investigators at least 3 times. The first 2 interviews did not raise any concerns about him. A review by a child psychologist stated that it appeared that the Ramseys had a, quote, healthy, caring family relationships. In 1998, Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner said during an interview with a news reporter that Burke Ramsey was not involved in the killing of his sister. In May 1999, the Boulder County District Attorney's Office reiterated that Burke Ramsey was not a suspect. The investigators had never considered him a suspect. The Ramseys offered a $100,000 reward in a newspaper ad dated April 27, 1997. 3 days later, more than 4 months after the body of their daughter was found, they submitted for the first time to separate formal interviews at the Boulder County Justice Center. In 1999, Colorado Governor Bill Owens spoke out, telling the Ramsey couple to, quote, quit hiding behind their attorneys, quit hiding behind the PR firm. Got him. A Colorado grand jury voted in 1999 to indict the parents. The indictment cited, quote, two counts each of child abuse, and said that the parents, quote, did unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly, and feloniously permit a child to be unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat of injury to the child's life or health, which resulted in the death of JonBenét Ramsey, a child under the age of 16.
Mm-hmm.
Among the experts who testified in the case were DNA specialist Barry Scheck, I don't know if I'm saying that right, and forensic expert Henry Lee. On October 13th, 1999, Alex Hunter, who was the district attorney at the time, refused to sign the indictment, saying that the evidence was insufficient for prosecution. The public thought that the grand jury investigation had been inconclusive. In 2002, the statute of limitations on the grand jury's charges expired. The grand jury's vote to indict was not revealed publicly until October 25th, 2013, when previously sealed court documents were released. The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, a show broadcast on CBS on September 18th and 19th, 2016, used a group of experts to evaluate the evidence. The group theorized that Burke had hit his sister in the head with a heavy object, possibly a flashlight, after she had stolen a piece of pineapple from his bowl, perhaps not intending to kill her. They suggested that the ransom letter was an attempt to cover up the circumstances of JonBenét's death. On behalf of Burke Ramsey, his counsel filed defamation lawsuits against CBS, the producers of the program, and several of its participants, based on its many claims. So that's the first theory.
That was all just one theory?
That was one theory.
Yikes.
So the second theory, and this one's a long one too, but we're getting to the end of my written notes, and then I have thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Theory number 2, the intruder. The second theory is the intruder theory. The police and prosecutors followed leads for intruders partly due to the unidentified boot mark left in the basement room where JonBenét's body was found. Early persons of interest included neighbor Bill McReynolds, who played Santa Claus, because remember, they had just gone to that Christmas party the night before.
Yeah.
Chris Wolf, a local reporter whose then girlfriend reported him as a suspect, family housekeeper Linda Hoffman Puff, and a man named Michael Helgoth, who died in an apparent suicide shortly after JonBenét's death. Hundreds of DNA tests were performed to find a match to the DNA recovered during her autopsy. In a 2003 defamation lawsuit related to the case Wolf vs. Ramsey, involving the Ramseys publicly identifying an early suspect in the case, Judge Julie E. Carnes wrote, quote, "There is no vitality, no evidence to support Wolf's theory that the Ramseys murdered their child, but abundant evidence to support the Ramseys' belief that an intruder entered their home at some point during the night of December 25th, 1996, and killed their daughter." Lou Smith, a detective on the case, assessed the evidence and concluded that an intruder had committed the crime. On the night JonBenét was killed, there had been 2 windows that were left slightly open to allow for electrical cords for the outside Christmas lights to pass through. A broken basement window and 1 unlocked door. Smith's theory was that someone entered the Ramsey home through the broken basement window. Critics have questioned this theory because there was an intact cobweb on the basement window. The steel grate that covered the window had undisturbed cobwebs, and the foliage around the grate had been undisturbed. There were also cobwebs in the tracks of various windows, and dust and debris were on some sills. Smith believed that the intruder subdued JonBenét using a stun gun and took her down to the basement. JonBenét was killed and a ransom note was left. Smith's theory was supported by a former FBI agent, John E. Douglas, who had been hired by the Ramsey family. Believing that the Ramseys were innocent, Smith resigned from the investigation on September 20th, 1998, 5 days after the grand jury was convened against the Ramseys. While no longer an official investigator on the case, Smith continued to work on it until his death in 2010. Author Stephen Singular, in his book Presumed Guilty, 1999, revised in 2016, refers to the consultations with cybercrime specialists to argue JonBenét attracted the attention of child pornographers and pedophiles affiliated with the child pageant scene. Singular further believes that the investigation was overly focused on the Ramsey parents, hampering investigations into alternate scenarios. And
Dorian, you got something to say?
He's mad about this case.
Literally hop between the microphones, just start screaming.
Hold on, I lost my place.
Did I make you lose your place?
Yes.
Did Dorian make you lose your place? Way to go, Dorian.
The Ramseys were not responsible for the murder, other than perhaps unwittingly exposing their daughter to sexual predators. Singular speculates this scenario explains why the grand jury did not recommend indicting the Ramsey parents for the murder, but for the child abuse or endangerment for placing their daughter in a risky situation. It was determined that there had been more than 100 burglaries in the Ramsey's neighborhood in the months before JonBenét's murder. There were 38 registered sex offenders living within a 2-mile radius of the Ramsey home. That's just wild to me. Every time I read that, I'm like, 38 in 2 miles? In 2001, former Boulder County prosecutor Trip DeMuth and Boulder County Sheriff's Detective Steve Ainsworth stated that there should be a more aggressive investigation of the intruder theory. One of the individuals whom Smith identified as a suspect was Gary Howard Olivia, who was arrested for 2 counts of attempted sexual exploitation of a child and 1 count of sexual exploitation of a child. Charges in June 2016, according to Boulder's Daily Camera. Olivia, a registered sex offender, was publicly identified as a suspect in an October 2002 episode of The 48 Hours Investigates the Killing of JonBenét, The Truth Uncovered, broadcast by A&E on September 5th, 2016. Nope, sorry, hold on. Olivia, a registered sex offender, was publicly identified as a suspect in an October 2002 episode of 48 Hours Investigates. The Killing of JonBenét Ramsey, The Truth Uncovered, broadcast by A&E on September 5th, 2016, concluded that an unidentified male was responsible for JonBenét's death. based on a forensic DNA analysis of evidence. In the documentary, DNA and forensic scientist expert Lawrence Koblinski stated that, quote, an unidentified male committed this crime. The district attorney's office investigating pedophiles indicated to former Denver prosecutor Craig Silverman that the district attorney's office followed the intruder theory. The Ramseys developed a relationship with district attorney Mary Lacey and her office, which was criticized by authorities such as the city's mayor, Leslie L. Durgan. Silverman said, quote, once you have conceded the possibility of an intruder, I don't see how any Ramsey could ever be successfully prosecuted. End quote. Gordon Combs joined the office as an investigator under Lacey when they were testing JonBenét's clothing for touch DNA. He also said that Lacey strongly supported the intruder theory and talked about it with the staff. Although he was not directly involved in the case, he said that he was told not to voice opposition to the theory because he might lose his job. Quote, it just seemed weird, the whole premise of this attempt to influence the entire agency, he stated.
Interesting.
I have some thoughts.
I have some thoughts as well.
What are your thoughts? Now hearing this case, what do you think?
I don't know, honestly, who to believe, because, I mean, it would make a lot of sense if the parents did it, because, like you said, there was no hard evidence of an intrusion, so, you know, the only people that could be responsible would have been the parents. But if it's not the parents, then it has to be somebody close to the parents. Somebody who knows, you know, how to get into the house without, you know, being obvious.
Right.
So, I don't know, my thing is, I feel like it was the parents that did it, but also, it could very strongly be somebody who was close to the parents, like somebody close to the family.
So
an outside influence.
I go back and forth, and here's the things that I get caught up on. The fact that in the autopsy, they said she had undigested fruit or vegetable that was later determined to be pineapple.
Undigested, so obviously ate right before.
So she ate it right before or shortly before she died. The fact that both John and Patsy were like, we don't know where this bowl of pineapple came from, but if you look at the crime scene pictures, it's this big ass bowl of pineapple and milk, which was a favorite snack for the kids. That was their like go-to snack, was pineapple and a bowl of milk.
Yeah.
And the spoon that they have next to this bowl of pineapple is like a serving spoon. So if you look at it from a surface, it's like, oh, a child put that together.
Yeah, pineapple and milk with...
Because a parent or an adult would not give a serving spoon.
Or they want you to think a child did it.
Right. But the fact that they were both like, we didn't do that, but we know she ate it, and we know that it was out because there's evidence of that.
We know she ate it because it's clearly there.
And for a long time, I fully believed Burke killed JonBenét.
Well, how do you know she ate pineapple? I mean, look at it.
Also, it's in her stomach, so she ate it. For a long time, I thought Burke killed JonBenét. Now I don't think I believe that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Burke is.
But I don't
think he's completely innocent in this either.
Here's the thing. Here's my theory. Because they said that assault could not be ruled out, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I think. I think somebody in that family killed her. Didn't mean to do it. I think it was a heat of the moment kind of thing. Maybe Burke got mad that she took his pineapple. Maybe John got mad about something, hit her in the head, was like, fuck, you know, like she's not getting up, thought she was dead, strangled her, staged the scene, used the paintbrush to make it look like she had been assaulted, to make it look like somebody had broken and done this to her. Because I fully, with my whole being, believe that Patsy wrote that ransom note.
I mean, in that case, I don't know which is worse. Somebody actually going through this whole deal to murder her, or the people, you know, doing this as a setup, so to speak.
It definitely, if you watch interviews with the family, Burke just looks haunted. I mean, something, again, because they said, you know, like, oh, well, he didn't wake up till several hours later, blah, blah, blah. Well, when Patsy makes the 911 call, because you can listen to the 911 call, when she makes the 911 call, she is frantic on the phone to the operator, but there's a moment after she thinks she hung up that she's totally calm and collected, and she was like, okay, I called the police, now what? And then you can hear a voice in the background, and then she turns and says something to the voice, and every single person who listened to that 911 call said she's talking to Burke. So if she's talking to Burke when she's on the phone with 911 at 6:55 in the morning, then he did not wake up after the police got there.
Something seems a little fishy.
I fully with my whole being believe that one of them had something to do with her death.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like the family is like trying to pull one over everyone's eyes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, because I like the idea of an intruder, but there's just so much, like, that had to be, if it truly was somebody that broke in. Sorry. You literally just unplugged my fucking headphones. If somebody truly had broken in, that has to be the luckiest human being in the whole world to completely avoid messing up the foliage outside, to completely avoid the cobwebs, like. And then also, yeah, whoever. Also, they had to have gone. They would have had to find JonBenét's room, then bring her down to the cellar, and they had to hope nobody else woke up, and then to leave through the cellar door, latch it behind them, and then walk out the front door. Right. Like the intruder thing just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, because that's the thing with the intruder thing. Like, even if they managed to sneak in, latch the door behind them again. How will they get back out? Right. They're like, there's no way they can easily sneak back out. Well, that's kind of what that one detective was saying, was like, I was looking for an escape route, and there just isn't one that makes sense. Right, and it wouldn't make sense. Even if like, something would have been disturbed if they went back out the same way they came in. Supposedly. Right, and if they allegedly went back out the same way they came in, then how did that cellar door get latched? That is true. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then it just... So here's the thing. When somebody calls to report a crime, and it's statistically proven, I don't know exactly the statistics off the top of my head. Statistics. Bro, I go hard into true crime. I am a true crime junkie. I love this shit. I'm not a crazy person, and I'm not glorifying, like, murderers and stuff, but it's just the psychology behind true crime, and like, well, yeah, because that's the whole thing, is like, it's not glorifying of it, it's just, you know, and I want to give a voice to the victim. Like, JonBenét deserves justice. I agree. I mean, this case is, let's see, she was killed in 96, so it's still unsolved to this day. This case is almost 30 years old. That's crazy. Like, yeah, I mean, this year will be 28 years since she's been gone. And it's the weird thing with that is, I don't know if they're ever like still gonna like try to solve it, or if at this point it's just, I mean, I think I believe it is still an open case, but it is cold. It is. It has been in the freezer for well over a week. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll ever solve it unless somebody confesses. I think that's what we're waiting for. I mean, stranger things have happened. I mean, there was the person who came forward about Tupac's death, like years after that happened. Right. So maybe there is still a possibility that more could come out about it, I guess. And here's the thing, and I'm talking to you listeners. If you know something, say something. Because that's the only way a lot of these cases get solved. Like, literally. I mean, that's kind of why, like, not to, like, praise this generation, but that's one good thing about this generation is that there are literally, like, cameras and people videoing stuff everywhere. So, there are, like, if we had back then, what we have now, that case probably would have been solved a lot faster, and would have.
Well,
it wouldn't still be open to this day.
The case could have been solved a lot quicker if we had competent police work.
Though that too, if police weren't stupid.
But also with stuff like genetic genealogy and shout out Crime Junkie, shout out Ashley and Britt. They founded a nonprofit called Season of Justice, and they're literally every penny that they earn goes towards solving cold cases. Like they test rape kits, they test DNA, like they do all that stuff because at the end of the day, most police stations and most, don't have the resources that they need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at your local pathologist, like your coroner. They've got bodies on bodies on bodies, and if they're working on something and a brand new homicide comes in, they have to put this thing on hold because they need this evidence. They just don't have the resources.
And the thing I just thought of too, like a downside, like if something came out today about it, the downside of it coming out in today's society is with all the AI stuff, a lot of people will just kind of push that to the side, just be like, oh, that's bullshit, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is AI news stuff out there that will come out, it's some random bullshit that is not true at all. It's still very convincing to, not to call it boomers or anything, but it's especially convincing to older people. We're like, oh, this is true. And like, no, grandma, that's fake.
Like, there's a couple cases that I know we are on the cusp of solving because I keep seeing news headlines. Like Madeleine McCann, I believe her disappearance can be solved. And I'm not going to cover that one this week because it's not one of the 4 I picked out. But long story short, she went missing in not Aruba. Where did she go missing from? I don't know. Her parents were on vacation and literally she went missing like 50 feet from where her parents were having dinner.
Oh, wow.
Because she was in a hotel room with her younger sibling and her parents were like across the street at a table eating dinner. They could see the door from where they were, and then one of the parents went back every half hour to check on the kids. So mom would go check on the kids, and then 30 minutes later dad would go, and then 30 minutes later mom would go again. So sometime within a 30-minute time span and in the view of her parents, she vanished.
Quite a mystery.
And I know that is going to be solved. I feel it in my bones. But it's stuff like that, like the JonBenét case, that is not going to get solved unless somebody confesses.
Yeah, there's quite a good possibility that this case will just die out unless something happens, like you said. Unless something just, comes out of nowhere. But I guess final thoughts, or is there more you wanted to say?
I'm just shooketh because this case makes me so mad.
Well, yeah, because incompetent police, the parents just messing with all the evidence and stuff.
That is what I believe, because usually the simplest answer is the correct one.
Mm-hmm.
And simply put, it couldn't have been anybody else. I don't know if it was John or Patsy. I'm fairly confident that it wasn't Burke, but I don't know for sure. But I know for a fact, I feel 100%, and again, this is all alleged because they have not been officially named as suspects, but I feel it is my personal opinion that Patsy 100% wrote that ransom note, because they even said in a couple of the documentaries I watched on this case that the language in the note used was language that she was known to use.
Oh,
like
yeah.
The whole bringing the attaché to the bank, like that was something she would have said.
Like literally people who kidnap kids or murder kids normally wouldn't use the word attaché.
Yeah. Or like the amount of the money being almost exactly what John's bonus was. Like that, there's just too much in the note that makes me believe that she 100% wrote it, especially when you consider that the pad that it was written on and the pen came from inside the kitchen. No kidnapper is going to sit at your kitchen table and write a 2.5-page ransom note, fold it up neatly, put it on your staircase, put the pen and the pad back where they found it, and then leave. Like that's just not going to happen.
Right.
It's statistically improbable.
I mean, I'm convinced that it was the parents.
Like I said, I don't know.
Or somebody like very
I don't know
close
which one specifically, but I do know that they're all covering for each other's ass.
I don't know. My personal thoughts is like, if it's not necessarily the parents, it's somebody close to them, and the parents worked with them to cover everything up.
So how was that?
That was
for your intro
that
to
was
true crime.
A lot more information than I initially knew about the case. All I knew was that, just before, all I knew about this whole thing was that this little girl died. It was possibly the parents or somebody else, but I didn't know all the like details of it. But yeah, that was a whole ass roller coaster with ups and downs, and maybe a few loop-de-loops in there, and then one slow part where you're going all the way up to the top, and then you just woo.
I literally, JonBenét Ramsey is my Roman Empire,
and that's got to be one of the more well-known true crime cases.
Like one of the podcasts that I listened to posed the question, and I would shout them out, but I don't remember which one I was listening to. Posed the question, if you could solve, or if you could know the answers to one case and never know the answer to anything else ever again, what would it be? And without hesitation, I was like, JonBenét Ramsey.
Well, yeah, because like you said, almost like almost a 30-year-old case, like something.
Like there's a bunch of unsolved cases that I'm like the Black Dahlia and oh shoot, I can't remember her name. There was a girl that was found in a water storage situation in a hotel. Alicia Lamb.
I vaguely remember something about that.
I would love to know what happened there, but not as much as I need to know what happened to JonBenét.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not kidding. It is my Roman Empire. I think about it every day. I'll be in the middle of a haircut and I'll be like, somebody in that house has to know something.
Just while you're coloring someone's hair and be like, there's gotta be justice for that girl.
Well, and any secrets?
Like,
any secrets?
Oh, nothing. Oh, the Stillers don't look good on you. The Ramseys.
Any secret that Patsy had, she took to her grave, because she did unfortunately die of cervical cancer or ovarian cancer in 2016.
2016.
Hold on, let me pull up my notes.
Because that's unfortunately, and if she died, then if she's responsible at all, then like you said, that evidence.
She died in 2006, and I believe it was cervical cancer.
Yeah, any evidence tied to her just died with her.
Yeah, anything that she knew. Oh, ovarian cancer. Yeah, June 24th, 2006. But I need to know what happened to JonBenét. Look at her face. She's just a baby.
Yeah, you said she was 6.
She's just a baby. Well, and the thing that I hate the most about this case is that they used hypersexualized photos of her. Like, she does not look like a little girl in any picture, which is just sickening because she was 6 years old.
Right. Protect their children. Listeners out there,
this
protect
this
your
one
children.
was the one that was all over the news.
I do remember that. Yeah, I remember seeing that all over the place.
For our listeners, her hair is blown out straight. She's got red lipstick on and a white ruffled shirt, and she does not look like a 6-year-old. If you Google JonBenét and click on images, it's the second one that comes up.
And is that John?
So JonBenét is spelled JonBenet.
Just in case people want to look it up for themselves.
But look, this is her kindergarten picture. Look at her. She's just a baby.
Just a baby.
She's just a baby.
That is, can I just say, that is a 90s photo if I've ever seen it.
Also, the picture, her kindergarten picture, in my opinion, is way cuter than any of these pageant pictures.
Well, yeah, because it's not fake.
Like, seeing a little girl all dolled up like this, like, it gives me the ick. Like, hardcore, it, like, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, that's just, yeah, that's not right. And
but like this one,
I know there's still child
how
pageants.
sassy she is.
I'm glad more people are kind of out of that, and the whole stigma against it is that they're horrible. So they're less popular. What's the word I'm looking for? They're not as
socially
prominent
acceptable
as they used to be.
Also, I do
maybe more in southern states, but I don't know.
I do have to say, I am more inclined to believe that it was one of the parents and not necessarily Burke, because he did a recent interview, and he is so haunted.
Well, yeah, because
I mean, he
sister was murdered.
He has this like 1,000-yard stare, and he's kind of an awkward kid anyway. I mean, he always had been, but he just like, you can tell that a part of him died when JonBenét died, and you can also tell, in my opinion, that he knows more than what he's saying. He's just afraid to.
Because one of the parents the dad is still alive, right?
JonBenét is still alive, yes.
I have a sneaky suspicion that once the dad goes, Burke will be like, okay, here's everything.
I see, and that's what most people think, is that once John dies, Burke is going to be like, okay, let me tell you what happened.
Well, yeah, because once the dad goes, there's nobody left to go after him.
But I could also see if Burke does know something, if he does know what happened, and he's truly, it would not surprise me if it came out later in life that one of the parents killed JonBenét, whether it was intentionally or not, killed her, staged the scene, what have you. It would not surprise me to know that they told Burke he could be in trouble if it ever came out. That he would be facing.
Well, yeah, that would explain the whole 1,000-yard stare thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you would be traumatized to believe that, like, this would be my fault.
It's like those situations with children who are horrifically abused. They're manipulated in such a way that they think this is my fault. Like, nobody's going to believe me. I'm going to be in trouble. So it wouldn't surprise me to know that Burke is struggling with that as well. Not to say that he was abused, but just to be like, oh, well, I'm going to get in trouble for this. Even though he may very well be innocent and just be completely, I mean, he may, at the very worst, he's an accomplice after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But it would be interesting, not that I'm wishing death on anybody, but it would be interesting to see if Burke has anything to say after his dad dies.
Like what changes after the dad dies.
Yeah.
Whew,
so that was JonBenét. That was a very, very condensed version because, like I said, this case
there's a lot more to it. But
there's a lot
condensed into what we're at, like an hour now.
Yeah, and I whipped through those notes really fast because I was typing them up, and I was like, "That's not really that important. That's not really that important."
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too. You gotta keep out not necessarily relevant stuff. Just like the spicy details. Just the main spices in this chili of murder. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. Spices in the chili of murder.
Spices in the chili of murder.
But yeah, I guess with that all we had to have.
That was all I had. I'm so excited to tell you my case for next week.
I guess we'll find out.
Okay,
or I'll find out.
Here's the thing. I have 3 more cases picked out. I just don't know. It'll be a surprise to me which one I end up going with.
Yeah.
Because I don't know which one I want to do next. I knew I wanted to do JonBenét first because I feel like JonBenét is everybody's intro into true crime because it's such a fucked up case.
And it'll be a surprise to me, because I literally know nothing of what you're planning.
Because I told you I wanted to get your genuine reaction.
And
I didn't want you to be able to research beforehand.
I mean, to be fair, I kind of brought this on myself after subjecting you to a whole month of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, so now you get to know how I feel when you listen to me talk about true crime. And I look over at you from that side of the couch and I just see that glazed look in your eye.
Just, what? But yeah, I guess with that...
By the end of this month, you're going to be a true crime junkie too.
No, probably.
And we're going to listen to our podcast together. It's going to be so great. Actually, I think you should listen to Murder with My Husband. Shout out Garrett and Peyton Moreland, because I think you'd enjoy it.
I might actually, because I've been thinking of other podcast stuff to add. Because
Garrett reminds me a lot of you, actually. Like, he's not in the true crime sphere like Peyton is.
Yeah.
But he's just like, every case they cover, it's so funny. He's like, are there security cameras? What about the security cameras? Are there cameras?
But yeah, I think with that, call it an episode here. I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of these episodes.
I'm so excited. I love true crime.
If you guys enjoy these true crime episodes, let me know on social medias. Link is in the link tree in the description. Or if you just want to say hi, go there too. You know, just do.
If you have any true crime case suggestions, pop them in. Maybe I'll find one that I like better than my 3 choices.
Yeah, pop them in just anywhere you can do. Anywhere you can do all the things that do all the stuff. But I guess with that being said, bring it to a close. Drink your water. Do positive things out there. I've been Cameron.
I've been Kate. You can find me on Instagram at KateVSTheWorld.
And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Nerds out.